Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 238 of the Prancing Pony podcast where, well, we're still not sure what you found stuck in the ferns.
Well, at least it's not orcs. But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who is not exactly wondrous fair to look upon, Alan Sisto.
Or so 'tis said, Sean. Thank you.
'Tis
kindly.
said by many.
By many. Now wait a minute. That's not in the notes.
No, that's just reality.
That's just your kindness.
Yep.
Ooh, ouch. Well, folks, today we are going to meet my favorite character in The Lord of the Rings in the final part of the chapter of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit.
Mablung?
No.
I know. It's Eowyn's husband. What's his name?
What's his name? That's remember.
Right. Something with an F.
Éomer.
There you go. Mr. Eowyn.
Oh, wow. That's
the future
fair.
Mr.
That's
Eowyn.
Mm-hmm.
No. All right, folks, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome, and sorry for the spoilers.
Yeah.
Here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, a few pages at a time.
We dive into the details, we point out connections to other writings, and we talk about our favorite themes.
But we also make sure we have a lot of fun along the way. So, we're glad you've joined us.
And we know you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get into the chapter tonight, it's time to revisit one of our new intro segments for this season, Questions Before Bedtime.
Okay, now since we've only done this once so far, we're going to take a moment now to remind you that Questions Before Bedtime is kind of like Questions After Nightfall, except that it's totally different because it's not for our patrons.
And it's not a full episode, so I guess it's not like Questions After Nightfall at all.
It's a question.
It is.
It's a question, and there the resemblance ceases.
Just about. So after hearing the questions that our own kids have come up with about Tolkien's works, Sean and I wanted to give an opportunity for our youngest listeners to ask us the questions that are on their minds as they discover the Legendarium for the first time.
Hi, my name is AJ, and I'm 10 years old and from New Jersey. I have a question for Questions Before Bedtime. I read the Silmarillion for Kids that was posted in the group, and I wondered, since Morgoth can't create life, do you think that the dragons were Maiar that got corrupted like the Balrogs? They can speak, and some have magic, so I couldn't really think of anything else it could be. What do you think?
Wow. Well, what do you think?
Well,
that's a big question.
Well, that is quite the question,
isn't it?
And hearing it, I kind of think AJ might not be a Legendarium rookie after all.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's go ahead with it. There's nothing in the Legendarium, either in the finished texts or even in the history of Middle-earth, that we can really definitively go on that gives us a solid answer. So, good news is there's no right or wrong here.
Woohoo, I like that.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, because I'm so often wrong. It's nice to know that I can't miss this one.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, it's truly what do we think? So let's do it. Let's speculate.
All right.
I guess my initial thought is that in response to one part of AJ's question, the ability to speak and to use magic doesn't necessarily indicate that dragons are Maiar.
Right.
A couple of examples of other creatures we've talked about that do or do not fit this mold. So, for example, not long ago, we talked about Durin's Bane. Okay. Durin's Bane is a Balrog.
Right.
Therefore, Durin's Bane is a Maia. But we talked about this in a recent Questions After Nightfall. Durin's Bane doesn't seem to be able to speak, or at least not anymore. Maybe Durin's Bane has lost the ability to speak.
Thousands of years in a cave with nobody to talk to, but yeah.
Right. We think that at some point Balrogs did speak, but obviously Durin's Bane doesn't seem to anymore. So
correct. That's
an example of clearly a Maia, but does not speak.
And clearly has some magic, right? The spell.
Clearly has some magic, absolutely. Now, flip side of that coin, you look at a character like Huon.
Yeah.
Huon actually could speak, at least was allowed to speak 3 times, and clearly had sentience beyond just those 3 times that he spoke. So he was
definitely
clearly sentient, clearly intelligent, but there's really nothing to indicate that he's a Maia.
Right.
Now, as for magic, like you said, the Durin's Bane has magic, but elves and ringwraiths have magia, so the ability to do magic isn't really an indicator of Maia nature either. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. I don't know that the speaking and the magic necessarily would indicate that dragons need to be Maiar.
It's a fair point.
My main thing with the dragons is I don't think they're Maiar because they're said to be bred, right?
That's a good point. Right.
I'm recalling that Glaurung is the father of dragons, which as far as we know means that he was the sire of all of them.
Yeah. Maybe not directly, but like the ancestor of all of them. Yeah, he may have sired a half a dozen. It's not like Smaug was his youngest child. Right.
Right. No, it's not like he was literally the father of all of them, but he was the ancestor. Yeah, the sire in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly every dragon after Glaurung couldn't be a Maia because they would have been the child of Glaurung, and Maiar are not children of other creatures. Even if Glaurung was a Maia, then his children wouldn't be Maiar. But I'm not even sure Glaurung is a Maia, just because when we first see Glaurung in the Silmarillion, he's actually said to be young and scarce half grown.
Oh.
When he appeared for the first time.
I'd forgotten about that because I was thinking quite possibly Glaurung being a Maia. I'll get to my part in a bit, but yeah, let's keep going there.
I mean, he could be, but the fact that he's young and not fully grown suggests to me that he's not a Maia in raiment, but an actual living creature that
a beast of some kind
that hasn't matured. I don't imagine one of the Maiar taking the raiment of a creature that isn't fully grown. Yeah,
right. I mean,
exactly.
like the Astari, they didn't show up in Middle Earth as children who grew into old men. They showed up as old men and stayed there as old men. Yeah,
right. So based on that, I mean, I think it's clear that most of the dragons are not Maiar, and I don't even know that Glaurung is, just because of this fact that we do see him when he's young. I tend to think that dragons were truly just bred by Melkor at some point during the first age. We're told early in the Silmarillion that he bred monsters of diverse shapes and kinds.
Right.
We're told also that certain creatures, like the werewolves, for example, the werewolves have dreadful spirits that he had imprisoned in their bodies.
Right.
And that gives the werewolves some intelligence and some sentience. So I kind of think dragons are more like that. Maybe just monsters, creatures that he's bred, maybe put some spirits of intelligence in them. Now, I guess that goes back to the question, well, are some of those spirits Maiar spirits?
Exactly. That's the thought. Right. Are they?
Yeah. I mean,
they could be, I suppose.
Maybe. I suppose they could be. And if any of them are, I suppose Glaurung is probably the most likely candidate. But I don't think they have to be Maiar. I think they could be corrupted Avari that are just put in very powerful bodies that Melkor has made for them.
Particularly corrupted Avari. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, they would have to be incredibly corrupted Avari, not just like,
Eol and Miglin come to mind, but I think the dragons already existed. But I can imagine one of them being, put in a werewolf's body or a dragon's body.
Honestly, I would imagine that whoever they are, they're probably worse than those two.
Yeah,
honestly,
probably.
They'd have to be worse.
Yeah, much worse.
I mean, they're like Eol and Miglin are like the worst of the good guys. Can you imagine what some of the Avari got up to?
Yeah, that's a good point. The ones that were evil from the get-go, as opposed to just, later on down the line, being betrayers.
So anyway, that's my thought. I mean, maybe Glaurung was a Maia, but I don't think he had to be, and I don't tend to think that he was. But anyway, I've gone on long enough. What do you think?
I kind of lean towards Glaurung quite possibly being a Maiar. Or at least I did. I think the point you made about him being young and scarce half grown does really suggest that he was in fact just a monster of diverse shape and kind. But, like you said, and this was my thought from the very beginning, is even if Glaurung was a Maia, the subsequent dragons were all descended from him, so they aren't Maiar. Now, they might have a bit of Maia blood, right? I mean, we know that through Luthien, a little bit of Maia blood has gotten into, that line of elves and of men.
Right, yeah.
But that doesn't make them Maiar, and it wouldn't make any of the other dragons Maiar.
That's a good analogy. Even if Glaurung was a Maia, we're dealing with, at best, like Luthien level degrees of Maia heritage.
Or, far less than that now. We might be dealing with Aragorn levels of that, To be honest, the thing that I was thinking of was the speculation we had about Draugluin and Carcharoth, right? Draugluin could speak. He was described as the lord and sire of the werewolves of Angband, very much like Glaurung was the sire of all the dragons. Carcharoth was Draugluin's descendant.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if, for instance, Draugluin was a Maia, but then that means Carcharoth isn't. And it's the same thing with, maybe we talked about the Maiar and we talked about Ungoliant possibly being a Maia.
Yeah.
But Shelob wouldn't be.
Ungoliant is one I do think is probably a
I
Maia.
think so. I think that's the most likely one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're even told she came from outside Arda, right?
Right. And outside Arda, there's a very limited number of things that exist.
Right, exactly, yeah.
They're all offspring of Iluvatar's thought, and that's a particularly dark corner, apparently. But yeah. I lean towards the possibility of Glaurung, but only Glaurung would be all I'd say.
Just the possibility.
But yeah, just the possibility, because it could be something else entirely different. And that's the point, isn't it?
I think that's true, because I think it's easy to fall into a trap, which we fell into ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly
We did.
back in our first season, of like, well, if something doesn't fit into any of the other categories, it must be a Maya.
Right. It's not an elf, dwarf, or man, therefore it must be a spirit being, therefore it's an Ainu, and it's not a Vala, therefore it must be a Maya. No, that's
right. And that's how we get into like, oh, well, the Ents are all Maiar, and the Eagles are all Maiar. And like, no, it gets a little out of hand.
It does.
And I think because of that, I think, even somebody like Tom Bombadil, we concluded probably was not a Maya. So there is clearly room for the unexplained in Tolkien's mythology. And so I think there must be other types of spirits that exist. And like you're saying, just because other specific categories aren't mentioned doesn't mean that there aren't other categories out there that the dragons and the werewolves could fall into.
I'm with you on that.
And so, yeah, I tend to think dragons are probably in that other category, either, well, at least Glaurung. Maybe the others are just, a child of that, whatever that is. But hey, there's no proof. So I can't say you're wrong, AJ. And I think it's a great question.
It's a great question, AJ. Thank you very much. So before we dive into the discussion tonight, we also want to issue a clarification, if you will, more of an addendum, really.
I think addendum is right for this one.
I think that fits. Yeah.
It was incomplete. It was an incomplete answer.
It was an incomplete answer. In our recent Questions After Nightfall episode, we were asked a question about the crucial nature of each of the members of the Fellowship, right? The hero moments for each of the 9. And we got through the obvious ones, but we stumbled a bit on Legolas and Gimli. We didn't really seem to think that they had their clear hero moments the way that the others did, in the sense that what they did enabled the quest to succeed. Whereas with the others, there were all key moments. Right.
That's right. Yeah. I think, we thought of them as important because, they're there to represent dwarves and elves, but we just couldn't really recall any specific hero moments at the time. So we kind of gave them a little short straw there.
Yeah, a little bit. And that's just the challenge of live recordings. It turns out there are a lot of Gimli and Legolas fans out there. And boy, did we hear from you. So
we got some mail, folks.
We did. We got some mail. So we're here to issue
That's
right. We did. We did indeed. We're here to issue a quick addendum and point out the absolutely crucial hero moments from Gimli and Legolas. And Sean, you're going to start with Gimli.
That's right. And if you're Éomer, you certainly remember Gimli's hero moment, because Gimli saved Éomer's life at Helm's Deep. Whoops.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Remember, as Éomer and Aragorn turned and ran towards the causeway in the middle of battle, we read, "At that moment, some dozen orcs that had lain motionless among the slain leaped to their feet and came silently and swiftly behind. 2 flung themselves to the ground at Éomer's heels, tripped him, and in a moment they were on top of him. But a small dark figure that none had observed sprang out of the shadows and gave a hoarse shout, 'Baruch Khazad! Khazad I Menu!' An axe swung and swept back. 2 orcs fell headless. The rest fled." That's a hero moment indeed. Not only is it just really cool to see, but I mean, if Éomer had fallen there at Helm's Deep, he wouldn't have been on the Pelennor Fields later on, leading the Rohirrim after Theoden fell. And of course, remember, he was right there with Aragorn and Prince Imrahil all the way through Book 5 of Lord of the Rings, right? Leading the hosts to the west and the whole rest of the War of the Ring, he's right there, one of the chief captains, right up to the Black Gate. And that's all thanks to Gimli. So,
it is.
Quite a hero moment.
Absolutely. And then there's Legolas, who in the same battle saved Aragorn's life. We read, "Aragorn turned and sped up the stair, but as he ran, he stumbled in his weariness. At once his enemies leapt forward. Up came the orcs, yelling, with their long arms stretched out to seize him. The foremost fell with Legolas's last arrow in his throat." Now, maybe Aragorn could have survived this encounter without Legolas, but I'd rather not have had to find out. So I'm going to credit Legolas with saving. I was going to say Arwen would rather Aragorn not find out. And of course, we all know how crucial Aragorn is to the quest, and even more so than Éomer.
Yeah.
And I'd also add the shooting down of the winged Nazgul from across the Anduin. Now, at the time, I don't think we considered it, but let's be honest, if that flying Nazgul is still there when the Fellowship breaks, I'm not entirely certain that Frodo and Sam even make it safely across the Anduin and into the Emyn Muil.
That's a really big one, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, that one is directly related to Frodo and Sam's quest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we kind of botched that one.
It just left it incomplete. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you said, that's the challenge of live recordings and also the fun of it, right?
It is.
Yeah. We come to the questions unprepared. We shoot from the hip, and sometimes we miss the obvious. So thanks to everybody who commented to us on social media about this and set us straight. Please stop commenting. Please stop emailing.
We're good now. We got it.
We understand.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, now why don't we go ahead and get back to the text?
I think we should. I'm going to have you pick up, actually, for the first reading of this one. You're going to skip a few paragraphs right after where we left off and pick up with the Rangers of Ithilien making their way through the bushes here.
All right. At once, 4 men came striding through the fern from different directions. Since flight and hiding were no longer possible, Frodo and Sam sprang to their feet, putting back to back and whipping out their small swords. If they were astonished at what they saw, their captors were even more astonished. 4 tall men stood there. 2 had spears in their hands with broad, bright heads. 2 had great bows, almost of their own height, and great quivers of long, green-feathered arrows. All had swords at their sides, and were clad in green and brown of varied hues, as if the better to walk unseen in the glades of Ithilien. Green gauntlets covered their hands, and their faces were hooded and masked with green, except for their eyes, which were very keen and bright. At once Frodo thought of Boromir, for these men were like him in stature and bearing, and in their manner of speech. "We have not found what we sought," said one. "But what have we found?" "Not orcs," said another, releasing the hilt of his sword, which he had seized when he saw the glitter of sting in Frodo's hand. "Elves?" said a third, doubtfully. "Nay, not elves," said the fourth, the tallest, and as it appeared the chief among them. "Elves do not walk in Ithilien in these days, and elves are wondrous fair to look upon, or so 'tis said." "Meaning we're not, I take you," said Sam. "Thank you kindly. And when you finish discussing us, perhaps you'll say who you are, and why you can't let 2 tired travelers rest."
Oh, I love Sam's spunk.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, I'm not taking this.
4 tall dudes.
Yeah.
Armed with spears and or bows.
And swords. Yeah.
And spears or bows and swords.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're mouthing off who you calling ugly.
I love it. I love it. Go Sam, man. Go Sam. So going back to the portion that you didn't read, they're hiding in the fern, right? You know, Frodo, when we wrapped up last episode, hush, I thought I heard voices.
He'd heard voices, right.
Exactly. So they're hiding in the fern and they're listening.
Right. And then suddenly the voices become clear. Maybe low and quiet, but they're coming quite close.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they've spotted the remains of the fire, the source of the smoke.
Exactly. And now Frodo and Sam are the pair of conies stuck in the fern like a trap. That's no accident. The line, "We shall have it like a coney in a trap."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And when you think of the title, Stewed Rabbit, Frodo and Sam, the rabbit's about to be stewed right now.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You're absolutely.
But at this point, the voices keep referring to it, right? A singular thing. What kind of thing it is, what it knows. Mm-hmm. And now, suddenly, the noose tightens, right? Frodo and Sam are surrounded in the fern.
Yeah, yes, they are. So they know it now. So they give up hiding. They jump to their feet and pull their swords. They are ready to fight, aren't they?
Yeah. Back to back.
Feisty, doughty at bay, as we read in the prologue.
That's right. Yeah.
And as surprised as they were, the pursuers were even more surprised, weren't they?
Well, yeah.
Well, they weren't expecting orcs. They were expecting Smeagol, as we'll get to later.
That's right. That's right. But let's get a close look at who these pursuers are.
Oh, yeah, please.
They're men, right? They're tall men, we're told.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're tall is a clue to the fact that these folks are descended from Númenor.
Right. That's absolutely right.
All right. So 2 of the 4 have spears in their hands, right?
Yeah.
Broad, bright heads, these beautiful spears. But the other 2...
Big, long spears to run them through with, yes.
Yeah, right. You don't want to feel those broad, bright heads. The other 2, though, have these really tall bows, almost their own height, which makes me think of the English longbow, which was like a 6-foot bow.
Uh-huh.
And these things were massive, and they had just incredible range and
300-400
incredible
yards.
force. Yeah.
Yeah. They took a lot of draw.
Yeah, you had to be strong to use them.
Yeah. 90 to 100, 120 pounds of draw. That's not the average user is going to be able to draw that one back. But yeah,
Right.
My goodness.
These are not like little short bows, you know.
No,
these are
no.
long bows, really
Big
like,
reach.
tall as a man.
Yeah, exactly.
And in addition to the spears or the bows, each one of the four has a sword.
Well, of course.
So they're ready for close range as well.
That's right. And they're dressed in green and brown, a very natural camouflage for Ithilien. And that includes their green gauntlets, green hoods, and green masks.
Classic ranger look, you know?
Oh, yeah. Classic ranger look. And of course, the one thing that is visible are their eyes, and they are bright and keen.
Yeah, and between the eyes and their height, they reminded Frodo of Boromir.
Yeah.
I mean, and just kind of everything about them, the way they carried themselves, the way they spoke. He immediately thinks of Boromir, and we'll see how he uses that knowledge in just a moment here.
That's right. And, the way they spoke, that's a big bit of it as well. Like you said, remember when we were in the Council of Elrond, we were able to view how effectively Tolkien used different modes of speech to differentiate between men.
Right.
It's one thing to differentiate between the dwarves and the elves, but when you've got Boromir and Aragorn, you see the difference just in their modes of speech.
Right.
Or even, I remember this, even Isildur, past Gondor, and Boromir, present Gondor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Isildur had a very archaic mode of speech, using words like gleed and things like that.
Right. Right. And of course, these guys sound a lot more like Boromir, but that's very different from Aragorn. And they would catch that difference. Right.
Right. And they do catch that difference. We're told exactly that because now they actually do speak, and we see that it's very much like Boromir's speech.
Right.
So let's break it down. We hear from each one of the four, right?
Yes,
the first one says, "We've not found what we sought," making it very clear that they were looking for it.
Yes.
Something else, not what they found, not these two guys.
That's right.
The second guy speaks. At least he recognizes that they're not orcs, unlike Treebeard.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah.
So there's that.
Right.
But then he also notices Sting in Frodo's hand.
That's right, which prompts the third one to question if maybe they're elves. But then the fourth one, the tallest one and apparently the leader, no, it's certainly not elves. They don't come through Ithilien anymore. And they are wondrous fair to look upon, which I love. Go, Sam.
Sam,
it's your turn.
Sam definitely knows what this means. He clearly understands the obvious slight here, and he takes a little bit of offense to it. And then he just offers this sort of sarcastic, thank you kindly, which I love.
I do too.
Like you said, Sam's spunk is really admirable here.
It really is. He even asks them to identify themselves. Need I remind you, they're the ones equipped with very tall bows, very long spears.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not exactly in a position to make demands, Sam, but I do love that attitude.
I'm willing to bet that the hobbits are in reach for the rangers. The rangers are not in reach for the hobbits.
Oh yeah, I think they
with those spears
and the tiny little reach that Frodo and Sam have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like you said, he says, "Why don't you tell us who you are?" And look, we're just two tired travelers. Why can't you let us rest?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Sure you are.
That's right. We'll get to that in just a little bit. For now, though, Sean and I are proud to welcome Give.R to the PPP. Now, Give.R, that's Givher, is the first gift-giving company of its kind. Now, folks, we all know that sometimes finding that perfect gift for your partner can be really stressful, and that's where Give.R comes in.
Give.R has done the research and the quality curation. They've got gifting figured out, and they promise to provide the perfect present, an indulgent experience for your busy partner.
Now, these gifts are different from other gifts because the whole core of Give.R is an experience that you and your partner do together. It's about connection. Give.R focuses on what's important, making happy memories with your loved one. I know my wife appreciated the experience of the gift, not just the gift itself.
Yeah, my wife was a fan of the experience and the gift, particularly one particular piece of it called the penguin's gift. It was a hand-selected pebble, just like the one a male penguin gives to a female as part of a penguin courting ritual. And that was a super fun one for us because we've actually gone penguin watching in Australia before.
Oh, you have? No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that brought back some cool memories. But
that's awesome.
Look, even if you're not an expert on penguin courtship rituals,
and how many of us are,
right?
Yeah.
Give.R has great romantic gifts for anniversaries, birthdays, and Valentine's Day coming up just next week.
Yeah, that's right.
So head over to givehergifts.com and use code PPP at checkout for a 10% discount.
That's GIVHER gifts.com. And use code PPP at checkout for a 10% discount. Well, folks, before we get back to the discussion, we want to make sure you know that when you finish listening to this episode, the talk continues all night long here at the Prancing Pony Podcast.
That's right. Our awesome listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces, from our common room on Facebook to our Reddit community, Twitter, and more.
Now on Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast, but be sure to follow the page and join the group in order to get some great discussions.
And you can find us on Reddit at r/PrancingPonyPod. And we're also at Prancing Pony Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
And folks, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. When you do, you get a lot. You get an active Discord community that includes live episode recordings. You also get postscripts, episodes without digital ads, free merchandise, and a lot more.
A whole lot more, actually. You get live Discord hangouts, a chance to be part of our Questions After Nightfall episodes, or even join us as a guest in the North Wing.
That's right.
So check out patreon.com/prancingponypod to support the show and become part of the Fellowship of the Podcast.
And if you enjoy the show, you can also help us out by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And now you can leave us a rating on Spotify, too. And please recommend us to your friends.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get back into the text. Alan, you're going to pick up the next reading. Go ahead.
All right.
Show your quality.
Well played, sir. The tall green man laughed grimly. I'm Faramir, captain of Gondor, he said. But there are no travelers in this land, only the servants of the Dark Tower, or of the White. But we are neither, said Frodo, and travelers we are, whatever Captain Faramir may say. Then make haste to declare yourselves and your errand, said Faramir. We have a work to do, and this is no time or place for riddling or parleying. Come, where is the third of your company? The third? Yes, the skulking fellow that we saw with his nose in the pool down yonder. He had an ill-favored look. Some spying breed of orc, I guess, or a creature of theirs. But he gave us the slip by some fox trick. I do not know where he is, said Frodo. He is only a chance companion met upon our road, and I am not answerable for him. If you come on him, spare him. Bring him or send him to us. He is only a wretched gangrel creature, but I have him under my care for a while. But as for us, we are hobbits of the Shire, far to the north and west, beyond many rivers. Frodo, son of Drogo, is my name, and with me is Samwise, son of Hamfast, a worthy hobbit in my service. We have come by long ways, out of Rivendell, or Imladris, as some call it. Here Faramir started and grew intent. 7 companions we had. 1 we lost at Moria. The others we left at Parthgallen above Rauros, 2 of my kin. A dwarf there was also, and an elf, and 2 men. They were Aragorn and Boromir, who said that he came out of Minas Tirith, a city in the south. Boromir! All the 4 men exclaimed. Boromir, son of the Lord Denethor, said Faramir, and a strange, stern look came into his face. You came with him? That is news indeed, if it be true. Know, little strangers, that Boromir, son of Denethor, was High Warden of the White Tower, and our Captain General. Sorely do we miss him. Who are you, then, and what had you to do with him? Be swift, for the sun is climbing. Oh, Faramir is here! Woohoo!
Alan has been waiting for this moment for 6 years.
6 long years. The arrival of Faramir.
Indeed. He arrives, and he introduces himself as Faramir, captain of Gondor. And just as suddenly as Faramir bursts onto the scene here, he sort of did the same to Tolkien in the composition of the work.
Yeah.
At least according to letter number 66, which Tolkien wrote to Christopher. In that letter, Tolkien says of Faramir, "A new character has come on the scene. I am sure I did not invent him. I did not even want him, though I like him. But there he came, walking into the woods of Ithilien. Faramir, the brother of Boromir."
That's right. But he wasn't originally Faramir. In the rough draft, Christopher tells us that the leader of the Gondorians was not Faramir, brother of Boromir. At this time, he was Falborn, son of Anborn, and remained so even in the manuscript. Mablung and Damrod, the two men who were left to guard Frodo and Sam, told them that Falborn was a kinsman of Boromir, and that he and they were rangers of Ithilien, for they were descended from folk who lived in Ithilien at one time before it was overrun. And we'll see the remnants of that line later when Mablung and Damrod talk about themselves.
Can you imagine if Faramir had just stayed as Falborn, kinsman of Boromir? I mean, like, probably a cousin or something.
Right.
Obviously, it changes the rest
changes
of
Denethor. Eowyn ends up still being single. I mean, it's a mess.
You're right. It changes the story completely from that.
Yeah, it does.
From this point on. And it just, you lose some immediacy. You know, I love the fact that he became Faramir, brother of Boromir, because then his opinion of Boromir, his memories of Boromir are just so much more urgent and important and vital.
And I love that the name was changed to Faramir, and it wasn't, say, Falborn, brother of Boromir, because by changing it to Faramir, it gives the first-time reader a clue. Okay, we know he's Boromir's brother, but at this point, Faramir hasn't said that. So Frodo doesn't know it. Sam doesn't know it. In fact, that's the thing he's holding back. But boy, the similarity in the name makes you think they're at least kinsmen.
And so not only does the similarity of the names immediately point to the fact that they must be closely related, but also if you dive into the etymology of their names, because names always mean something in Tolkien.
That they do.
It actually could tell us a little bit about how their father feels about us, which is fascinating stuff.
Yes, that's okay. Yeah.
So Boromir's name, I think we talked about this way back in book 2, because it was actually in Hammond and Scull's Reader's Companion. Yeah. But Boromir actually means steadfast jewel.
Yeah.
We think it does. Like Elendil Mir.
Right. Or Gwaithir Myrdain. Yeah. I mean, Mir we know for sure.
Right.
And Hammond and Scull did. It's more of a suggestion because Tolkien never actually made it abundantly
He didn't
clear,
actually say anywhere. That's right.
But we do know the elements are Boro, which means steadfast as a Sindarin word, and Quenya Mire, which is jewel.
Right. Which is a wonderful thing to name your son.
Yeah,
for sure.
steadfast jewel. But I'm waiting for the hammer to fall on this one.
Oh, yeah. Now, Faramir, like Boromir, is never directly translated by Tolkien, and the Fara part is a little bit harder to track down. But there are a lot of people online who believe that it is related to the Sindarin word far, which means adequate. Now, if that's true, then Boromir is the steadfast jewel, shining, steadfast, stern.
Right.
And Faramir he's the adequate jewel.
He's all right.
You know,
he's just like this guy, you know?
he's like not the high grade diamond, you know? He's like one of the lower grade diamonds. He's
like a
yellow.
topaz or something, you know? I mean, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever.
And I mean, that is a bit speculative for the etymology of Faramir, but it certainly makes sense.
Well, we do know that the FAR prefix does mean sufficient or adequate.
That's right.
That's the source, as Bor is the source for Boromir, then yes, it is.
Then that's probably it.
Wow.
So,
ouch.
Wow. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
And that will not be the last time we say that.
No. Denethor is not drinking from his Father of the Year mug.
No.
He got one, but it was before Faramir was born. Yeah.
No. But anyway, going back to Faramir and Boromir themselves, I'm so glad that Tolkien changed him to actually being Boromir's brother and just giving us, again, it's like it's giving us another version of Boromir, you know, to come back into the story. You know, obviously he is a very different person, but it just reconnects
Boromir as he should have been.
Oh, how did I walk right into that?
Yeah. You really did, man. I'm sorry. Not sorry, but yeah.
But anyway, so he is Faramir, brother of Boromir. And going back to the text in front of us, he alleges there are no such things as travelers here.
Yeah, this isn't exactly a touristy area. Yeah.
No. There's no such thing as travelers. You must be either with Sauron or with Gondor.
That's right. And Frodo objects to that, of course. And after Frodo objects to that, Faramir insists they say who they are and what they're doing. Specifically, he wants to know about the third person in their company.
Right. And Frodo's initial response is to question what he means. What are you talking about? The third?
Okay, I got to ask, is that genuine? Or is this an attempt to simply avoid talking about Gollum? Keeping in mind, Gollum hasn't been around much while Frodo's been conscious lately.
I think it's clearly an attempt to avoid talking about
I think
Gollum.
so too. Yeah. I was trying to give you an out just in case you wanted to take it, but
no,
I'm with you.
No.
Third? What third? What are you talking about?
I mean, Frodo doesn't know that they've seen Gollum, but once they say the third, he has to know who they mean.
He does.
It's
not like buying himself some time because he does give an answer, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. But he doesn't give an answer until Faramir has a few words to describe him with, right?
Well,
Skulking,
that's right. Yeah.
Ill-favored, orc-like. He gave us the slip. I love the ill-favored one because that phrase is used one other time, and it's to describe that squint-eyed southerner in Bree.
Oh, that's right.
He had an ill-favored look. Yeah.
Good catch. Yeah.
Well, it's an ebook. It's really easy to type in ill-favored.
All you do is just search for ill-favored.
I mean, okay, I'm just giving away my whole, knowledge base, but yeah.
No, that's all right. Just
Well, because I thought that Grima was described that way.
It seems like he would be. We talked about like the heavy-lidded eyes that Grima and Gollum both have. Yeah.
Yeah. But ill-favored only applies to the southerner and Bree.
The southerner.
The half-orc. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's clear that Faramir has seen Gollum. And then Frodo does explain a little bit about Gollum, but even his explanation is dissembling. He can't. Frodo's a terrible bluffer in poker, right? I mean, like
I want to play poker against Frodo, that's for sure. I'm taking all his money. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, he's a chance companion. I'm not responsible for him.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, but if you encounter him, spare him, please.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you align just some random dude I met on the road and I'm not responsible for him? How do you align that with like, oh, if you find him, spare him, he's under my care?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, is this just Frodo? Like you said, is he just stalling for time here? Is he?
I think he's very much off the cuff right now.
Yeah, he's just kind of scrambling, isn't he?
I think when he said what third, he was just buying time for whatever excuse he's going to come up with. And now he's just rambling.
He's just, he's just saying stuff because he has no idea what else to say.
I don't know where that guy is, but
yeah,
he's not my friend. He's just this guy I met.
Right.
But you know what? I do feel really sorry for him because he's wretched and gangrel. And so, he is kind of under my care. I'm not responsible for what he does, but if you find him, please send him back.
Right.
Yeah, it is a little.
I'm not responsible for him, but he's under my care. Yeah.
Right. I don't know how you reconcile that. Under my care, but not my responsibility. Yeah.
I'm going to try that line if my son ever breaks somebody's window with a ball or something,
Like, he's under my care, but
he's under my care, but he's not my responsibility.
That's right. You want to sue him, you got to sue him, not me.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, Frodo then explains who he and Sam are, right? He's kind of diverting a little bit, getting off the subject of Gollum. It's like, hey, wait, but hey, forget about him. We are hobbits of the Shire, which is far to the northwest from here.
That's right. You're going to want to hear all about that. And he gives his name, the more formal patronymic usage, right? Frodo, son of Drogo, and Samwise, son of Hamfast.
I think he does that
full detail,
kind of like speaking to his audience, don't you think? Like he knows the way these men talk.
Yeah. He knows that this guy reminds him of Boromir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. And then he notes that Sam is in his service, which is distinct from under my care.
Yes.
I just want to point that out. And then he says something that really gets Faramir's attention. We've come here via Rivendell.
And he even gives the elvish name, doesn't he?
Yeah. Imladris. That's right.
He's really, really speaking to his audience here.
Yes, he is.
And it works, right? Because as soon as he mentions Rivendell or Imladris, then Faramir begins staring intently.
Mm-hmm.
And then Frodo goes on. He starts to talk about his companions. Now, he doesn't name most of them. He doesn't name Gandalf. He doesn't name Merry or Pippin. Of course, who cares about them? He doesn't name Gimli.
Those two guys, right?
These guys don't care about them for sure.
No.
He doesn't name Gimli. He doesn't name Legolas.
No.
But he does name both men.
Yes, he does.
He names Aragorn and he names Boromir.
Specifically from Minas Tirith. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, not surprisingly, this gets a very strong reaction from all four men.
Yes.
And now Faramir is bearing down, right? I mean, he is stern. He's locked in. He's ready to take some action here if the next words are not very carefully considered, I think.
That's right. And I think Frodo expected a reaction. I don't know for sure that he expected this reaction, but he knew that these words were going to get Faramir's attention.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this. He recognized these men as being like Boromir, right? They must be Boromir's countrymen.
Mm-hmm. Which is why he mentioned him last, specifically mentioning the city he came from.
That's true. mentioned Minas Tirith specifically.
Mm-hmm. You wonder, did this plan come to him as he was like kind of playing for time with the Gollum thing?
I think Frodo's just one of those guys who, like, you ask him a question off the cuff and he's going to ramble for a bit and then finally he's going to come up with something really smart.
Yeah, you're right.
Kind of like we do sometimes in Questions After Nightfall.
Oh, you're optimistic, but thank you. Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes we don't get past the rambling stage, but
very rarely do we get past it. That's true.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get a good one out of it.
All right, every once in a while.
But yeah, I think Frodo was smart to mention him because he's got his attention. But like you said, he's got to be really careful with his next words. And
yes, he does. Yeah.
Faramir's reaction is suspicious. It's doubtful. He's like
skeptical, right?
This would be interesting if it be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he points out part of his own relationship to Boromir, not the whole thing. Just
that's right. Just part of
the military relationship.
Exactly. He's the High Warden and our Captain General. Now, a bit of detail on this, since that's a rank we don't have in the United States Armed Forces. It means the Commander-in-Chief of the Army. It's the highest rank and authority. The closest we would have, since the president is actually the official commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, would be during time of war a 5-star general. So he is the commander. He's in charge.
The commander of the whole forces. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes far enough to say that, Boromir's missed. We do miss him. We're his men.
Right.
But he doesn't mention that he's the brother of Boromir.
That's correct. Later on, he'll say something, one of my favorite lines in the whole book, that he wouldn't even snare an orc with a falsehood, but that doesn't say that he's going to always tell things the
whole truth.
He doesn't. Yeah, exactly. He's not going to lie.
He may tell nothing but the truth, but he doesn't always tell the whole truth.
That's correct. Yeah, he's not revealing his close relationship with Boromir.
Right.
But now that Frodo has identified himself and Sam, Faramir wants to know more. It's not just tell me who you are and what you're doing here. Now that Frodo has gone and said these things, he needs to know more. He needs to know, who really are you? Not just your name. Who are you? And what did you have to do with Boromir? And that is where I'm going to have you pick up, because I think this is where we see that Frodo did have this reaction in mind.
Yep, I think you're right. Are the riddling words known to you that Boromir brought to Rivendell? Frodo replied. Seek for the sword that was broken. In Imladris it dwells. The words are known indeed, said Faramir in astonishment. It is some token of your truth that you also know them. Aragorn, whom I named, is the bearer of the sword that was broken, said Frodo, and we are the halflings that the rhyme spoke of. That I see, said Faramir thoughtfully. Or I see that it might be so. And what is Isildur's bane? That is hidden, answered Frodo. Doubtless it will be made clear in time. We must learn more of this, said Faramir, and know what brings you so far east under the shadow of yonder. He pointed and said no name. But not now. We have business in hand. You are in peril, and you would not have gone far by field or road this day. There will be hard hand-strokes nigh at hand ere the day is full. Then death or swift flight back to Anduin. I will leave 2 to guard you, for your good and for mine. Wise man trusts not to chance meeting on the road in this land. If I return, I will speak more with you. Farewell, said Frodo, bowing low. Think what you will. I am a friend of all enemies of the one enemy. We would go with you if we halfling folk could hope to serve you, such doughty men and strong as you seem, and if my errand permitted it. May the light shine on your swords. The halflings are courteous folk, whatever else they be, said Faramir. Farewell.
Oh, I love that. We'll get to that wrap-up later. Let's start going back to the part you read at the beginning. Frodo leads with his strong suit, right? I mean, he just comes out. This is the pinch hitter who hits like 450 and has, 70 home runs in the season. Mm-hmm. Do you know the lines from the dream that Boromir talked about? Now, just as a reminder for you listeners, Boromir said those dreams came to Faramir first, though at the time his brother remained unnamed, so we don't know that. Frodo may suspect it, we don't know. But here's what Boromir had to say at the time. A dream came to my brother in a troubled sleep, and afterwards a like dream came off to him again, and once to me. In that dream I thought the eastern sky grew dark, and there was a growing thunder, but in the west a pale light lingered, and out of it I heard a voice, remote but clear, crying, Seek for the sword that was broken. In Imladris it dwells. There shall be counsels taken stronger than Morgul spells. There shall be shown a token that doom is near at hand. For Isildur's bane shall waken, and the halfling forth shall stand. So that is the entirety of that piece, and we don't normally read the entirety of anything, but it is only 8 lines, kind of hard not to. That's what Faramir's talking about. That's what Frodo's talking about, I should say, when he's explaining to Faramir. Yeah.
Right. And as you said, truly leading with his strong suit. It's like, hey, you know that prophecy? I'm your prophecy, man.
I got your prophecy right here.
I got your prophecy right here.
Yeah, if this doesn't work, nothing's going to work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. And and Faramir is astonished, right?
Oh, yes, he is.
Because, as you said, it was his dream initially. And he says, kind of understating it, you know, the words are known. Yeah.
Yeah, they're known. They're quite known to me who had that dream. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've heard that. Like, not like I wrote that, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or my subconscious wrote that.
My subconscious. That's right.
But he does begin to believe Frodo more as a result, doesn't he?
I think so. Yeah. The skepticism is starting to melt away.
Mm-hmm.
And Frodo then explains the roles that Aragorn, along with he and Sam, play in this riddle. And while that gets Faramir thinking, we still see a little of that skepticism. He is careful. I see that it might be so.
Yeah. Well, as he says, it's a token of his truth that he knows those words. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's telling the truth completely.
That's correct.
But then he asks the big question. Okay, well, if you're the halflings and that's the sword, well, what's this Isildur's bane thing?
Yeah, we've been trying to figure that out forever, right?
And that's when Frodo puts the brakes on again, and he's like, I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out eventually.
Yeah, exactly. One of these days. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, Faramir wants a full debrief now, right? We must learn more about this and about why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to note the reluctance or the refusal, really, to say the name of the mountains of Mordor or even the land of Mordor. It's just worth noting in passing, right?
Yeah, the shadow of yonder, and then there's a dash there, as if it's kind of cut off. It's almost like
he points and said nothing, right?
It's almost like he's about to say something and then doesn't. Now we don't know that for sure, but if nothing else, it seems Frodo's probably expecting him to say a name, and then he doesn't.
Right, under the shadow of yonder, and then he points, but but not now. We can't do that debrief because, well, there's going to be a fight first. Yeah.
Yes. And I love the phrase he uses for that, hard hand strokes.
Oh,
that's
I
just
love that too.
Wonderfully alliterative way to say that. It's like
hard hand strokes.
Very old English, It's the kind of thing you'd see in an old English poem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this battle's coming. So Faramir is going to leave, but he's going to leave 2 guards to watch them. And it's both for their safety and also Faramir's good, right?
Well, of course.
He doesn't know if he can fully trust them, doesn't want them running free just yet.
No, not to leave the fern, even if you come and get him.
Even if you come and get him, we're not to leave. Yeah.
Until you come and get him, we're not to enter the fern.
Man, just imagining Eric Idle as Mablung is just ridiculous.
I love that. That would be so good. So good. Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. Faramir leaves 2 guards, and you're right. It's for both. It's going to be a dangerous place to be here. But at the same time, I'm not about to just let you guys go.
No, you're not roaming free here just yet. And then he quotes this proverb by way of explanation, right? Mm-hmm. I love this. I always love the proverbs we get in Lord of the Rings. Wise man trusts not to chance meeting on the road in this land.
Yeah, I think the "in this land" is probably not part of the proverb. My guess
probably
is that,
not, why? Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
We follow this proverb in this land. Yeah.
Yeah. Wise man trusts not to chance meeting on the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And then he acknowledges that he might not return, right?
Isn't that amazing right there? If I return, I will speak
if I return. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he said, death or flight back to Anduin is going to be coming after this battle. So.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we may not return from this.
No, we may not. Yeah, so Frodo wishes him farewell, and I love the way he does that, right? I am a friend of all enemies of Sauron, of the one enemy. Mm-hmm. And we would even go with you if, and I love this, it's a conditional statement, right? If A, we could actually be of any help at all, and B, if my task allowed it. And really that's
it's really about his task. It's really about his task, but he is kind of like, buttering him up a little bit.
Oh yeah, such doughty men and strong. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. But by way of farewell, we get a benediction of sorts, right?
Yes.
A blessing.
I love it.
May the light shine on your swords.
Such a great one. And that really puts me in mind of the recent Patreon special we did on goodbyes. We talked about
100%,
benedictions and valedictions. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about how some goodbyes are just a simple secular, hey, see you later. Hope to see you again soon. And
right. See you down the road sometime. And others are truly, I commend you to the hands of God. I mean, it's, a much more recognizing the heaviness of the moment, recognizing the likelihood that they'll never see him again. In this case, I think it's somewhere between, he's certainly hoping that he survives.
I dare say that in Middle-earth, despite the fact that there's no mention of a personal God here, I mean, the light shine on your swords.
Oh, yeah.
Think of the importance of light in Middle-earth and how much light represents divinity in Middle-earth. I think this is really close to an actual benediction.
I think so too. That's and I think we'll see that come up in two more bits and pieces. One in this chapter that we'll get to tonight, and then another moment, a couple of episodes into the next chapter, where we'll see some mentions that and we'll come back to this when we get there. But
right.
So, folks, if you are a member of the Fellowship of the Podcast, please go listen to that special. It was a really fun one to put together. We really enjoyed recording it. And we've already gotten some great feedback on it. If you're not a member of the Fellowship of the Podcast, maybe go become one. It's, one of the things you get is a quarterly special on a topic. So we've got a whole slew of those now that you can go back and listen to that are special episodes only for our patrons.
Yeah. And this most recent one was a really fun one. And
wasn't it? I loved it.
Yeah. It's one of those things, when we dive deeply into a topic, you start to see how it resonates across
patterns in
the story, and there's things you don't even think about. Like, we didn't even think about this one in that episode, but having done that work and done that research and now having that in our heads, you can look at something like this and go like, yeah, that totally fits this pattern. It's great.
May the light shine on your swords. Absolutely. Great stuff. Really is.
Yeah. So that's Frodo's farewell to Faramir, and this farewell prompts a kind word from Faramir about the courtesy of halflings as he departs. He's already starting to warm up to them a bit, which is really cool.
A little bit. I love that, though. They're courteous folk, whatever else they be. They might be lying little sacks of whatever who are really actually spies for the enemy, but they're courteous. And that matters a little bit,
I don't know. I think he's starting to warm to him a little more than that. But you're right. He doesn't really know what to make of him yet.
No. And how could you?
Right.
Really? I mean, okay, they're halflings, but my goodness, they would look so odd. They've never seen halflings. They don't.
That's true.
I would have thought they were mythical creatures, sort of like the Rohirrim did, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then you're going to go ahead and pick up right there, actually.
Yeah.
The very next paragraph.
Absolutely. The hobbits sat down again, but they said nothing to one another of their thoughts and doubts. Close by, just under the dappling shadow of the dark bay trees, two men remained on guard. They took off their masks now and again to cool them as the day heat grew, and Frodo saw that they were goodly men, pale-skinned, dark of hair, with gray eyes and faces sad and proud. They spoke together in soft voices, at first using the common speech, but after the manner of older days, and then changing to another language of their own. To his amazement, as he listened, Frodo became aware that it was the elven tongue that they spoke, or one but little different, and he looked at them with wonder, for he knew then that they must be Dunedain of the south, men of the line of the lords of Westernesse. After a while he spoke to them, but they were slow and cautious in answering. They named themselves Mablung and Damrod, soldiers of Gondor, and they were rangers of Ithilien, for they were descended from folk who lived in Ithilien at one time, before it was overrun. From such men the Lord Denethor chose his foreheirs, who crossed the Anduin secretly, how or where they would not say, to harry the orcs and other enemies that roamed between the Ephilduath and the river.
All right.
Oh, boy.
A short passage, but there's a lot there. So
there is.
Let's talk about
indeed.
It. So, the hobbits sit down quietly, and we just see them observing these two men who are left, right? The ones who are guarding them.
Right. And observe them they do, right? Frodo notices that as the weather warms up, the men remove their masks, probably still stayed 6 feet apart. Sorry. That took a little while.
That's going to sound really weird in a few years, I hope.
I hope it will too. My goodness. For those listening to us in 2047, there was once a pandemic. I'm sure you've heard about it.
For 2 years, we all
At
wore
least.
masks and were afraid to get closer than 6 feet to anybody.
Oh, goodness. Wow. Yeah, I do hope that sounds strange in the future. Now, Frodo notices their appearance. I want to talk about this for a little while. They're goodly men. Okay, that's one thing. But here's the thing I want to focus in on. Pale-skinned, dark hair, and gray eyes.
Mm-hmm. And I love this description. And I know this is maybe a little bit of a stretch because, we're here in the Third Age, and I'm going back to the First Age here. But
yeah,
I can't help but think of the description of the House of Beor in the Silmarillion, right?
Absolutely.
We read about the 3 houses of the Edain, and those of the House of Beor are described as dark or brown of hair with gray eyes.
That's right. Now, look, we know that all 3 houses of the Edain, those are the houses of Hador and Beor, as well as the Haladin, went to Númenor. But I think, these are clearly descended from those Beornings.
Yeah, they absolutely have to be.
Not Beornings. The
Right.
House of Beor.
The House of
Beor.
Really
clear. Yeah, these aren't going to shapeshift into bears anytime
That would be
soon.
hilarious if they
That
did.
would be awesome if they could.
Oh,
Who needs the bows?
Yeah.
Did you just pull off a Winnie the Pooh?
I just pulled off a
love it.
Winnie the Pooh.
Love it. Great stuff.
But yeah, and like you said, they all went to Númenor, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there was a lot of intermingling. I'm sure, there's probably nobody who's, all House of
6,000
Beor,
years
all
ago,
House of
yeah.
Hador anymore. Yeah.
right.
But I mean, obviously these guys take after the House of Beor, right? And it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a callback to this ancient lineage they have.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And we even get a clue with that, I think. Again, it's just supposed to be a reference because, of course, they're all going to be speaking after thousands of years. They're all going to be able to speak the same languages. But
Sure, yeah.
when we read in the Tale of Eldarion and Erendis, which is in Unfinished Tales, and I highly recommend it if you've never read it, there's a footnote that explains that the general use of Sindarin in the northwest of the Isle, talking about Númenor itself, was due to the fact that those parts were largely settled by people of Beorian descent. And the people of Beor had in Beleriand early abandoned their own speech and adopted Sindarin. Now, again,
That's
thousands of
right.
years ago, so I know that's
Yeah.
not telling us anything here, but this is an interesting thing.
It just could be a matter of Tolkien kind of dipping into his own mythology,
Yeah.
right? You remember John Ratliff's quote about his dipping into his homebrew mythology.
Yeah,
Like
with the Arkenstone and the
Arkenstone
Silmaril.
being
with
inspired by the Silmarils, right?
Thingol and Thranduil, yeah.
Yeah, he may not necessarily be saying that these guys are specifically of the House of Beor, and as you said, thousands of years have passed. They've got to all be, somewhat related to each other at this point. But
True.
But yeah, I do think that there's an interesting nod back to the First Age here,
mm-hmm.
and I also think it's interesting. The part that you just read from Unfinished Tales wasn't actually mentioned in the Silmarillion. We didn't get that bit about the people of Beor,
right,
adopting Sindarin in the Silmarillion. But we do read in the Silmarillion that the people of Hador, who were more, fair of face, and they had, blonde hair and things like that, they never forgot their own speech, the original Mannish speech, and from that came the common tongue of Númenor, which became Adonaic.
That's right. So maybe if they were speaking only that and they were blonde and blue-eyed, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, these people
That's
are
a reference
from the
back
House
to
of
Hador.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think these are all just references. I think
exactly.
We can actually learn a lot more about the use of Sindarin here by something that's right here in Appendix F to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
In that, Tolkien says, in the days of the Númenorian kings, this ennobled Westron speech spread far and wide. And he's referring to a form of Westron that was ennobled with a lot of Elvish words.
Mm-hmm.
Spread far and wide, even among their enemies, and it became used more and more by the Dunedain themselves, so that at the time of the War of the Ring, the Elven tongue was known to only a small part of the peoples of Gondor, and spoken daily by fewer. These dwelt mostly in Minas Tirith and the townlands adjacent, and in the land of the tributary princes of Dol Amroth.
Okay.
So I think the fact that they're speaking Sindarin here, in addition to possibly being a reference to the earlier history of Middle-earth, I think it's very clearly a marker of the fact that they're descendants of people from this area, right?
Yeah.
People from Ithilien, near Minas Tirith, because that's where people still speak Sindarin. And so, yeah, I think that's a really, really cool detail that we get here.
It is. And that's a great quote from Appendix F. I mean, trying to dig through this. I'm like, I know there's got to be some relevance about why they're speaking this. And sure enough, there's all sorts of relevance. It's great.
Right.
Yeah.
There is. And there's relevance to Frodo, too, because as he's hearing them speak an Elvish tongue, he realizes, oh, these must be Dunedain of the South. These are men from Númenor.
Mm-hmm. And eventually he talks to them, but initially they're not very talkative in return. They do get their names, though, Mablung and Damrod.
Oh, yes. Now let's talk about these names, right?
Yes.
I think you've all heard the name Mablung before.
I hope so.
There was a Mablung featured in the Silmarillion, actually appeared in both the Tale of Beren and Luthien and the Tale of Turin Turambar.
Mm-hmm.
Mablung of the Heavy Hand, which actually is the literal meaning of his name. He fought against Carcharoth alongside Beren and Thingol and Beleg and Huon.
Right.
And of course, he was a good friend to Turin.
Yeah, he was. And not the one that Turin accidentally stabbed.
Killed.
Yeah.
No.
Poor Beleg.
He was mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah.
No, actually, Mablung was slain later in Menegroth protecting the Silmaril.
That's right.
So, great name.
Oh, absolutely,
Tolkien
great name.
Uses these names from the first age. And so,
yeah.
Obviously, within the universe, you could probably explain this as, hey, this guy is named after this character from history. How cool is that?
Yeah. Well, Damrod, it turns out, was originally a name that Tolkien gave to one of the sons of Feanor, and it means hammerer of copper. And I want to give a hat tip to Hammond and Scull for pointing that out to us. Yeah.
That's right. That's the one that became Amrod, right?
Yeah, that's
Amrod
correct.
and Amros later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. And so then we get the fact that they're Rangers of Ithilien, right?
Yes.
And what does that mean? That they don't just work here. They're not just assigned to this post. They're actually people whose lineage goes back to this area.
That's right.
And these are the ones that are used to foray into this area, probably because they have a connection to it. So they're probably going to be very good at protecting it.
Almost certainly. A little bit of word nerdery. These days you're more likely to hear the word foray in the sense of trying something new, right? My first foray into podcasting, for example. That's not the meaning of the word here. A foray is a sudden attack or an incursion into enemy territory. It's a raid. These aren't merely scouts, like looking defensively. These are raiders making attacks on orcs and other servants of Sauron in Ithilien. Makes me want to play a song in the background while they're talking. Yeah, it's never mind. It's the Raiders theme song from like NFL films. The autumn
That's
wind
why I didn't get it.
Is a raider pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you around upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. Anyway,
wow.
Yeah.
Alan showing his Raiders love.
Sadly, just after they lost their first playoff game that they've been in since.
I'm sorry about that.
I know. I'm sad too.
There's always next year.
Yep.
And, as you say, these guys are raiders. And the next bit makes this clear, right? They're actually here to ambush the Haradrim who are riding through.
That's right. Uh-huh.
And they're doing so a bit farther east of the Anduin than usual. They're actually 10 leagues out, which is 30 miles.
That's quite a bit east of the river, no doubt. Now, Damrod does give a bit of history regarding the Haradrim, or the Southrons, as we've encountered them before. And he talks about the dealings of old that existed between Gondor and Harad, but he does say there was never really friendship, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And he says that the border between Gondor and Harad was further south then.
Yeah.
And that Umbar, which is now the nearest of their realms, actually was in Gondor's sphere of influence.
That's right. Now, note that Umbar is pretty far south. If you look on the map, it is almost as far south of Minas Tirith as Minas Tirith is south of Rivendell. It's a long way down.
That is a long way. Wow.
Yeah.
That really is very far south.
It really is very far south. That's why we're talking about like equatorial lands, and why we get such a different description of the geography and of the landscape of that area, and why we end up seeing Mumakil.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you consider, we talked not too long ago when we first got to Ithilien about how far Ithilien is south of Rivendell, of the Shire we were talking about, but Rivendell's about on the same latitude as the Shire, right? More or less.
Right.
So, you're talking about the difference between like Northern Europe and the Mediterranean. And so
now
you go that
the Mediterranean
distance again,
to,
like you said, you are equatorial at that point.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
It really is. And then we get this tantalizing bit from a footnote in Appendix A here in The Lord of the Rings about Umbar. Umbar had been Númenorian land since days of old, but it was a stronghold of the King's Men. Now, remember, the King's Men were the ones that were all about Ar-Pharazôn and seizing immortality from the elves. They were not the good guys, right? You had the King's Men and then you had the faithful. Right. So Umbar was a stronghold of the King's Men, who were afterwards called the Black Númenorians, corrupted by Sauron, and who hated above all the followers of Elendil. After the fall of Sauron, their race swiftly dwindled or became merged with the men of Middle-earth. but they inherited without lessening their hatred of Gondor. Oh. So, yeah, that's who the Southrons are. The Southrons aren't the Black Númenorians themselves. They're the people that the Black Númenorians kind of became merged with, right?
Yeah.
But in merging with them, they gave them their hatred of Gondor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And that explains, what we're going to see here, which is how they always
a huge army coming forth to
follow
serve Sauron.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go ahead and skip a couple of paragraphs, that history lesson that we just mentioned, and then I'm going to have you pick up with what's going on lately.
Yep, and this is exactly what I was thinking of in terms of them following Sauron.
That's right.
Now of late we have learned that the enemy has been among them, and they are gone over to him, or back to him. They were ever ready to his will, as have so many also in the east. I doubt not that the days of Gondor are numbered, and the walls of Minas Tirith are doomed, so great is his strength and malice. But still we will not sit idle, and let him do all as he would, said Mablung. These cursed Southrons come now marching up the ancient roads to swell the hosts of the Dark Tower. Yea, up the very roads that craft of Gondor made. And they go ever more heedlessly, we learn, thinking that the power of their new master is great enough, so that the mere shadow of his hills will protect them. We come to teach them another lesson. Great strength of them was reported to us some days ago, marching north. One of their regiments is due by our reckoning to pass by, some time ere noon, up on the road above, where it passes through the Cloven Way. The road may pass, but they shall not. Not while Faramir is captain. He leads now in all perilous ventures, but his life is charmed, or fate spares him for some other end.
Indeed, fate does spare him for some other end, and we'll get to that, but wow. Oh, man, I'm just going to say I love Mablung right there. Oh, so great.
It's great, yeah.
It really is. But we'll go back to the beginning there with the stuff from Damrod. After the brief history lesson, right, he switches to these current events. Sauron's been recruiting among the Southrons, and now they're on his side.
Yeah, and, you read that quote from Appendix A just a moment ago. I mean, that tells us that it really wasn't a hard sell for Sauron to make. They had this hatred of Gondor.
Yeah.
It's just there already. All he has to do is tap into that.
Exactly.
And then with this assessment, we see Damrod start to kind of admit to a little fatalism here, right?
Oh, very much so.
He says, the kingdom of Gondor, the walls of Minas Tirith are doomed.
Yeah.
This is a big circle of light bit here.
Yeah, and Mablung, like I said earlier, I love what he says here, right? He shows this sort of Beowulfian spirit that we would expect from a man of the West, from a Dunedain. Doomed or not, we are not going to sit here on our butts and just let Sauron get away with what he wants to do.
No.
I mean, these Southrons, they're coming up the road that our own people made.
That's right. They're using our roads, man.
This is not okay.
And they're bold about it too. They think they're safe. Just being in the shadow of Sauron's mountains means that they're going to be safe. But I love this. We'll show them differently, right? We mean to teach them another lesson.
I love that. He has a couple of great lines here, doesn't he? We come to teach them another lesson, and then that bit about the road may pass, but they shall not.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I love it.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
But the Haradrim are on their way in big numbers, right? He says that a regiment is going to be coming through the pass about noon. And this is actually the same pass that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago as Frodo and Sam came through.
That's right. We sort of previewed this little moment. Now, a regiment is just a large group of soldiers in terms of definition. But technically, if we want to look at it in World War I, a regiment, like Tolkien's own Lancashire Fusiliers, would have been made up of 2 active battalions along with a reserve battalion, each battalion consisting of about 1,000 men. So if this Southern regiment was based on Tolkien's own relatively recent experience, it would be about 2,000 strong. So it's a big group of soldiers.
That's a big group, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because I don't think they'd be sending their big guns, right, the Mumakil, or in this case, one Mumak. I don't know how many more they have, but we only see the one. They wouldn't be sending that with, a platoon or a company.
Like a small part, a couple hundred or something.
Yeah. You would need a much larger force to justify sending that sort of weapon along with them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But then we get another great bit from Mablung as he praises his captain, Faramir, as either charmed or spared by fate for another purpose.
Oh, I love that.
I love this so much because, for one thing, I don't know, I hear so much love in Mablung. Voice when he's talking about Faramir, I don't know.
Admiration. He leads now in all perilous ventures. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a camaraderie, and there is just a love for his captain here, and I love that. And when we talk about him being spared by fate for another purpose, I mean, given what we know about where the story's headed, sorry folks, spoilers, but the role that Faramir plays as steward when Aragorn arrives, and then ultimately handing over the throne to Aragorn, I'd say Mablung's guess isn't far off the mark.
I think you're absolutely right.
Fate is positioning Faramir. Fate is Fate is keeping Faramir alive because he's meant to serve a purpose here.
That's correct. And, we've had a lot of fate and free will discussions, and I think it's perfectly appropriate to have another one here. He may be fated for this greatness, right? But he still has to do what he does. He still has to fight. Right. He still has to lead in these perilous ventures. He doesn't know that he's being protected.
He has no idea. He's just doing what he has to do to protect his city.
Right. Absolutely. And he's going to take that risk.
He makes the right choices. I've got to go. I've got to go fight this fight.
Yeah.
He doesn't just, rest on his laurels and just assume everything's going to be okay.
Well, he certainly doesn't assume that. I mean, look at what he said to Frodo when he left. If I return.
That's right. If I return.
He knows
he
full well
could
he
die.
Might not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
All right. Well, picking up right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go ahead and read a little bit more.
All right. Sounds good. Their talk died down into a listening silence. All seemed still and watchful. Sam, crouched by the edge of the fern brake, peered out. With his keen hobbit eyes, he saw that many more men were about. He could see them stealing up the slopes, singly or in long files, keeping always to the shade of grove or thicket, or crawling, hardly visible in their brown and green raiment, through grass and brake. All were hooded and masked, and had gauntlets on their hands, and were armed like Faramir and his companions. Before long, they had all passed and vanished. The sun rose till it neared the south. The shadows shrank. I wonder where that dratted Gollum is, thought Sam, as he crawled back into deeper shade. He stands a fair chance of being spitted for an orc, or of being roasted by the yellow face. But I fancy he'll look after himself. He lay down beside Frodo and began to doze. He woke, thinking that he had heard horns blowing. He sat up. It was now high noon. The guards stood alert and tense in the shadow of the trees. Suddenly, the horns rang out louder and beyond mistake from above, over the top of the slope. Sam thought that he heard cries and wild shouting also, but the sound was faint, as if it came out of some distant cave. Then, presently, the noise of fighting broke out near at hand, just above their hiding place. He could hear plainly the ringing grate of steel on steel, the clang of sword on iron cap, the dull beat of blade on shield. Men were yelling and screaming, and one clear, loud voice was calling, "Gondor! Gondor!" Oh, I'm getting chills.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to... All right. We'll get there in a minute.
We'll get there.
I think it's so cool the way this battle is presented to us. But let's go back to the beginning of the passage first, because we've had Mablung and Damrod been talking, and then suddenly their talk dies down, and they're listening, right? A listening silence that's described as still and watchful.
Yes.
And then we switch from Frodo's perspective to Sam's.
That's right, and that's key because we're going to stay with Sam's perspective the rest of the way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now he can see a lot more of the Rangers, right? We see with his keen hobbit eyes. His keen hobbit eyes, by the way, do not see over the curvature of the earth. I just want to point that out. Sorry.
Nope. You got to have elf eyes to see along the straight road.
That's right. But he sees them, hiding essentially, keeping to the shade, crawling through the grass, doing exactly what you'd expect a group like this to do. They are numerically at a disadvantage, right? Their strength is going to be in hiding. And they were all equipped like the four that they'd seen, Mablung, Damrod, Faramir, and whoever the fourth one is. Hoods, masks, gauntlets, and green and brown camouflage, essentially. Yeah.
Right. But they disappear quickly. Before long, they'd all passed and vanished. And then Sam begins to wonder where Gollum is.
Oh, yeah.
And at first he seems concerned that Gollum would be mistaken for an orc.
Yeah.
But then he quickly kind of gets over that. And he's like, you know what? He'll be fine looking after himself. Probably because he doesn't care too much if Gollum gets mistaken for an orc.
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, if he gets mistaken for an orc, that's one less mouth we got to feed.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And then he does the most Sam thing ever and just takes a nap. I love it.
Yeah,
I mean, we're waiting for a battle. Yeah. We're totally waiting, and you don't even know where Gollum is. And I mean, wow, this is a tense situation, but Sam just like, man, I'm out. I love it.
I bet he slept like a log too. Slept content if logs are contented. Yeah.
I love that line from Tom Bombadil, chapter way back at the beginning. Of Fellowship. Yeah. So Sam's nap ends abruptly with what he thinks is the sound of blowing horns, and it is now high noon.
Oh, yeah. And the guards are tense, right? They're alert. Oh, yeah. And then we hear the horns blow a second time, and this time,
no
clearer,
mistake,
right? Louder and beyond mistake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, I love this. We get this battle just by sound, right? Sam hears these cries and shouts, but they're faint and distant, at least at first.
Well, yeah, until it's not distant at all, right? It's fighting just above where they're hidden. Remember we saw the road goes through a pass, and they went up and over this hill. So they're on the downside. They're on the eastern side of the road on a down slope. So you'd climb up to the top of the slope and you'd be looking down onto the road at that point.
Yeah.
So they're on the downside. And so for them, they're hearing things that are kind of on the other side of this hill. And now all of a sudden it's no longer distant. They're fighting just above where they're hidden. He hears the sounds of sword versus armor and shield. He hears yelling and screaming, and the one voice, clear and loud, calling out Gondor.
That's cool. That is so cool. And it's such a wonderful way for Tolkien to present this battle to us. Just by what Sam hears. Mm-hmm. And yet, Sam doesn't really want them any closer.
No, I don't need it to be any louder. I know there's a battle.
This is after the part that you read, but they're as near as I want them now.
Boy.
Thank you very much. Keep them where they are.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But he may not want them any closer, but that's exactly what he's going to get, right?
That is exactly what he's going to get. Damrod's pointing out now how some of the Southrons are taking off from the road, from the ambush that they triggered, and how the Rangers are going after them, all led by Faramir. And that is when we get to this really iconic moment. I think one of those things that no matter whether you've read The Lord of the Rings once or 100 times, it's a passage that sticks with you. And Sam, I'm going to have you take it. And Sean, I'm going to have you take this one. It's a great one.
Thank you, sir. Sam, eager to see more, went now and joined the guards. He scrambled a little way up into one of the larger of the bay trees. For a moment, he caught a glimpse of swarthy men in red running down the slope some way off, with green-clad warriors leaping after them, hewing them down as they fled. Arrows were thick in the air. Then suddenly, straight over the rim of their sheltering bank, a man fell, crashing through the slender trees nearly on top of them. He came to rest in the fern a few feet away, face downward, green arrow feathers sticking from his neck below a golden collar. His scarlet robes were tattered. His corselet of overlapping brazen plates was rent and hewn. His black plaits of hair, braided with gold, were drenched with blood. His brown hand still clutched the hilt of a broken sword. It was Sam's first view of a battle of men against men, and he did not like it much. He was glad that he could not see the dead face. He wondered what the man's name was and where he came from, and if he was really evil of heart, or what lies or threats had led him on the long march from his home, and if he would not really rather have stayed there in peace. All in a flash of thought, which was quickly driven from his mind.
Okay. That passage always gets me.
Oh, wow. That's such a powerful passage.
It really is. There's so much poignancy here.
Really grateful to have the chance to read it. So great.
It really, really is. Yeah, let's go ahead and get back to the beginning of that passage. Then we stay with Sam's perspective. Like I say, we're going to stay there now through the rest of the chapter. He wants to see more, so he follows the guards. He follows Mablung and Damrod. And then he climbs up into one of the trees. Now, presumably that's for a better view and maybe a little safety too.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to be able to see, but he doesn't want to be right in the thick of it, right?
No, he does not. Yeah.
And so then he witnesses some of the skirmishes. We see swarthy men. So swarthy simply means dark-skinned, so they are darker skinned than the Gondorians. We'll talk a little bit more about this later.
We will.
And they're wearing red, and we see them running from the Rangers, and they're being slain as they flee. Arrows are thick in the air, and then...
Oh, man. Yeah.
I mean, this is a moment full of action.
It is.
And then we get this intense moment of personal experience for Sam. And I love this because we go from, all this action, sort of the external, and then suddenly we just come right into Sam's head.
it's a very quick transition,
Mhm.
and it's really
It
a very
is.
quick moment too. We're even told that at the
Yeah.
end, right? I mean, skipping forward, that all in a flash of thought, which was quickly driven from his mind. But we do get that insight for a while. It's a pause. It's as though Tolkien has pushed the pause button on this battle long enough for us to experience what Sam is thinking right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
see a man fall right over the rim of the bank that had been protecting them. So now, like I said, they're on the uphill slope. So somebody's now coming down the hill. This body has now fallen in the fern just a few feet away. His face is down, an arrow in his neck. Now, remember, Sam's in the tree. He's not
Mhm.
on the ground. He's in the tree. So this guy's like at the foot of the tree, just a few feet below him, and he can see him so clearly and so detailed. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And we get a detailed description of his clothing, his armor. I mean, it's all seen better days, right?
Sure, but it's gorgeous, really, when you think about it. Yeah.
Scarlet robes.
Yeah.
They're tattered. I don't know if they're old or if they've just been shredded from the fighting.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Then
Or even just from the journey. Yeah.
Or just from the journey. Yeah. His armor of brass plates is torn and cut. That's probably from the fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we see his hair is braided with gold. I mean, it's really beautiful. These are obviously people who are like ornamenting themselves, right?
Yeah, they take their aesthetic seriously, right?
Yeah,
Scarlet
absolutely.
robes, brass armor, gold braided hair.
This is a beautiful aesthetic.
They take pride in their appearance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this kind of horrific moment when you realize that all this beautiful stuff that he's wearing is tattered, destroyed. His hair, these beautiful braids of gold, they're drenched with blood.
Oh.
And it's just so human and so powerful.
It is.
And it affects Sam.
It does.
And we see that, his brown hand still holding a sword. The sword is broken.
We should probably talk a little bit about the brown hand, though, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we should. We saw that they were swarthy. Obviously, the Southrons do have darker skin than the Hobbits do, than the Gondorians do. And the fact that Sam is recognizing the brown hand, I think that this is othering the Southron in a way, right?
A little bit. Yeah.
I mean, and this is a moment that many people point to as problematic. It's the darker skinned people of the South are allied with Sauron. I mean, I think Tolkien did his best to give reasons for that.
Right.
That were not tied to their race directly.
Correct.
But we've talked about all this before, right?
We have. And folks, if you really want to kind of dive into this, and we recommend you do, if you haven't listened to them already, take a listen to episode 114 when we talked about it, and then take a listen to 192 when we brought on some readers who had their own personal experiences dealing with issues of race in Tolkien. Well worth your time. Please take a listen.
It really was, because I mean, again, for us, we can't know what this is like for somebody who's for someone who's not white, and so it was really good to hear from some readers who were people of color, and I think it was a really good episode.
It was eye-opening.
It really was. It really
and
was.
Also encouraging.
I mean, you recognize how people can still love Tolkien's work, even though there are some things about it that they might struggle with a little bit, and I think that's
fair. Yeah,
I think that's really important, and I was glad to hear from them.
It really is.
And I don't know if there's really a whole lot more that you and I can say about it, but I really do like the fact that even though the Southron is very clearly othered by Sam, he's very much seen as different by Sam, and yet that makes the next moment all the more beautiful in my eyes.
I agree,
because he does see this person as other. He does see him as evil, a follower of Sauron, and strange. His clothes are strange to Sam.
Even his skin color would be strange to Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet then Sam has this moment.
This isn't like seeing a dead orc.
Right.
This is a very poignant, powerful moment. And it's because it's the first sight of a battle for Sam that didn't involve orcs or monsters, or wolves or whatever. This is men versus men.
This is men against men.
He doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it. It feels wrong to him, I think.
I think it
he senses the wrongness of this. Yeah.
And I think that's also maybe a little bit of a reminder that hobbits are close kin to men too. I mean,
could be. Yeah.
That could be me possibly is what he's thinking in a way, more so than if you were looking at a dead orc or a dead warg or, something like that. Yeah.
Well, and I think that sheds a lot of light on what we see next from Sam. Because we see these thoughts that pass through Sam's mind upon seeing the dead man. He wonders what his name is. He wonders where he came from. And then my favorite bit of the whole passage.
Yeah.
He wonders if he was truly evil or if he'd been lied to or threatened in order to get him to fight. I mean, Sam isn't going to think those things when he sees a dead orc.
No, he's not.
He's not going to wonder what an orc's name is. And orcs have names. We know orcs have names.
That's true. Shagrat and Gorbag, at least.
Right. But Sam doesn't wonder these things about orcs. Sam doesn't feel this sadness, this grief. Really.
It's this kinship too, right? I mean, this is a man. And so there is a closeness. And these thoughts that we're seeing Sam have here and seeing him explore and question, these deeply humanize the dead Southron. You know, we don't see his face, and Sam is glad for that. And I am too.
Sam doesn't want to see his face because then that really personalizes him, right?
Exactly. This is personalizing it, but to a lesser degree than seeing his face.
And it's not that Sam doesn't want to recognize him as human. That's not what we mean. It's just he doesn't want that connection to that was his face and now he's dead. I mean, I can
understand that. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to see the face of a dead person. It's the difference between seeing a car accident where there's a yellow tarp and actually seeing the body. I don't need that. Yeah. You know, and Sam doesn't want that here. He's already understanding this person to be human. He doesn't need the additional help of the face.
Right. You're right.
But that's the thing. These thoughts really do humanize this dead Southron. And I think it is no accident that Tolkien puts these here. This is for us to help us as the readers to do the same.
Oh, definitely.
Remember, Sam is the emotional heart of the story. So when Sam feels something, we need to be considering, is this something we're feeling?
Right.
Sam is very much, in a way, us, right? He is the least knowledgeable of all the characters.
Right. Yeah.
And
he's
emotional.
very much kind of our point of view. And like we've said many times, the emotional heart, like you just said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this shows us how Tolkien gives us room to see the enemy, in air quotes, in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
Hammond and Scull put it this way, and honestly, I couldn't put it better, so I want to quote them from the Reader's Companion. In The Lord of the Rings, the characters who oppose Sauron or Saruman do so because they know that they are about to be attacked. They fight to defend themselves. Most do not like to fight and would rather be at peace. Tolkien makes it clear that Sauron is utterly evil and that it is right to resist him. Nonetheless, he allows that some of those who fight for Sauron or Saruman may not do so willingly or may have been deluded.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
we don't know.
Yeah, that's right. And with that context in mind, recall the Dunlendings, who were told by Saruman, falsely, they were lied to, that the Rohirrim were cruel and burned their captives alive.
Right.
I mean, that lie ensures that the Dunlendings are going to fight the Rohirrim to the death because they're terrified of being
who wants to
taken
be
alive.
captured and then burned alive. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Saruman played on the already existing hatred that the Dunlendings had for the Rohirrim. And
that's true. Just as Sauron did of the Southrons.
Yeah, exactly. But who knows about this particular Southron, right? Who knows whether this guy was, I can't wait to get up there and kill these terrible people of Gondor, or whether he was lied to or coerced or threatened. Who knows?
Yeah. Or if he, did he truly hate Gondor? Would he willingly die in order to see it destroyed because he thinks it's horrible? He thinks it needs to be wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeah. We don't know.
We don't know. But the fact that Tolkien raises the question, as Hammond and Scull say, he does give us room to humanize the Southron. And I think this is really significant. He is very much humanized in a way that orcs are not.
And that's key, right? It's one thing to humanize the Dunlendings and the Southrons, and it's another thing with the orcs. I think we talked about this before. The orcs just they're not redeemable. There's nothing about them that is good anymore.
Right.
But with men, there is still that.
There is. And yet, even with orcs, we've talked about this a few times, even Tolkien struggled with the idea.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
How can even orcs be irredeemable? I mean, he struggled with this a lot. He really flew in the face of his own personal religious beliefs.
That's right.
And his own thoughts of the way his world should work.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a very powerful moment. And I think it really just opens one's eyes to the essential humanity of Tolkien's vision. And I do truly love it.
I do too.
And you got to think, I mean, we don't know. We can only speculate. But, did Tolkien have a moment like this on the battlefield in France?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he talks in the letters about the fact that there's good and evil on both sides. In fact, there was a letter, I almost quoted it in our notes, and I decided to leave it out, but I'm looking it up right now, and it's letter number 71 to Christopher Tolkien. And let's see, how does he put this? I think the orcs as real a creation as anything in realistic fiction. Your vigorous words well describe the tribe. Only in real life, they are on both sides, of course. For romance has grown out of allegory, and its wars, talking about the wars like in The Lord of the Rings, right? The wars of Middle-earth are still derived from the inner war of allegory, in which good is on one side and various modes of badness on the other. In real life, men are on both sides, which means a motley alliance of orcs, beasts, demons, plain naturally honest men, and angels. But it does make some difference who are your captains and whether they are orc-like per se. So,
wow, that's a great one.
Isn't it?
I'm glad you found that one. That's awesome.
I'm glad I found it too.
Yeah, because at first it comes across as a little bit bleak, right? You know, there's orcs on both sides. Like, oh, that's not good. There's bad guys
charming.
on both sides, which of course is true, but you know, that's not what you want to think about. But then he talks about the fact that there are men on both sides too, and angels on both sides. Wow. I mean,
and that it matters who your captains are, your leaders. And that's why I think when we come back to more on Faramir in the coming episodes, we'll see what a difference a good captain makes.
Yeah, definitely.
Boy. But yeah, what a passage that is. I'm glad I didn't read it because I get to experience it by listening instead of having to read it.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Yeah.
And I'm actually going to let you pick up right there, and you're going to take us to, well, it's our last passage of the episode. You're going to take us almost to the end of the chapter.
That's correct. And this is immediately after this flash of thought quickly driven from Sam's mind.
Time is no longer standing still.
That's correct. We've unpressed the pause button, and it's definitely catching up. For just as Mablung stepped towards the fallen body, there was a new noise, great crying and shouting. Amidst it, Sam heard a shrill bellowing or trumpeting, and then a great thudding and bumping, like huge rams dinning on the ground. Where? Cried Damrod to his companion. May the Valar turn him aside! Mumak! To his astonishment and terror and lasting delight, Sam saw a vast shape crash out of the trees and come careering down the slope. Big as a house, much bigger than a house, it looked to him, a gray-clad moving hill. Fear and wonder maybe enlarged him in the hobbit's eyes, but the Mumak of Harad was indeed a beast of vast bulk, and the like of him does not walk now in Middle-earth. His kin that live still in latter days are but memories of his girth and majesty. On he came, straight towards the watchers, and then swerved aside in the nick of time, passing only a few yards away, rocking the ground beneath their feet, his great legs like trees, enormous sail-like ears spread out, long snout upraised like a huge serpent about to strike, his small red eyes raging. His upturned horn-like tusks were bound with bands of gold and dripped with blood. His trappings of scarlet and gold flapped about him in wild tatters. The ruins of what seemed a very war tower lay upon his heaving back, smashed in his furious passage through the woods, and high upon his neck still desperately clung a tiny figure, the body of a mighty warrior, a giant among the Swartings. On the great beast thundered, blundering in blind wrath through pool and thicket. Arrows skipped and snapped harmlessly about the triple hide of his flanks. Men of both sides fled before him, but many he overtook and crushed to the ground. Soon he was lost to view, still trumpeting and stamping far away. What became of him Sam never heard, whether he escaped to roam the wild for a time until he perished far from his home, or was trapped in some deep pit, or whether he raged on until he plunged in the great river and was swallowed up. The Mumak.
Yes.
All right.
Great moment. All right. As we said, we are back to real time here because
we are.
That philosophical little reverie from Sam just lasted a moment. And then
mere seconds. Yeah.
A new noise comes, breaks him out of it. And there's this noise of a shrill bellowing or trumpeting.
I can't do an elephant, so I won't bother.
I can't do an elephant noise either, but that's what it is. And then a great thudding and bumping and a dinning, right? Dinning
That's
means
not a
basically
word
making
people know. Yeah.
No, it's not a common word. I mean, people may have heard the noun din, right?
Right.
This is basically making a din, making a noise.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get Damrod's warning, where, as in beware. And then one of my favorite moments, the mention of the Valar.
Yes.
Yes. Now, this is the first time that the Valar are mentioned in The Lord of the Rings, and we will see them mentioned 2 more times outside of the appendices.
That's right. The next time is when Theoden is compared to Orome the Great when the world was young, right?
I get chills every time on that one. That's my favorite
that's
reference.
One of your passages.
Yeah.
And then there's one more time when Gandalf places the crown upon Aragorn's head.
That's right, yeah.
And he says, "Now come the days of the king, and may they be blessed while the thrones of the Valar endure."
That's right. Now, we're going to come back to this when we get to the meal that Frodo and Sam take with Faramir next chapter. Remember, I mentioned this earlier when you talked about may the light be on your swords.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, it kind of ties into this idea of the Valar, and that ties into what we're going to see next chapter. This mention of the Valar really puts their moment of silence in the window on the west into greater perspective, I think.
Yeah, it really does. Let's pick up on this again when we get there.
Yeah, we will.
Definitely. And then we get the description of the Mumak.
Oh, yes.
Now, worth noting, because this even trips me up sometimes, Mumak is the singular. Yeah. Mumakil, which we often see, is the plural. And apparently this is the Haradric word for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, obviously, you know what it is, folks. It's an elephant. It's big as, well, no, it's much bigger than a house. It's like a moving hill.
Yeah. Well,
gray-clad moving hill.
That's huge. Now, the narrator says that Sam may be exaggerating a bit here, but no, it really is huge. I mean, the text tells us modern elephants, right? His kin that live still in latter days. The elephants that you see at the zoo are but memories of his girth and majesty.
Yeah. I mean, and sure enough, this thing is huge. I mean,
oh yeah.
Even with the Sam exaggeration factor, we see great legs like trees, enormous sail-like ears, a long snout, and tusks. Dripping with blood, no less.
Oh, man. Nasty. Yeah.
And, a lot of what we see here is consistent with the description of elephants in medieval bestiary. Remember, we talked about that back in episode 235, and then we talked about it a little bit more in the postscript to that episode.
That's right.
Things like the ruins of a war tower on the creature's back that had been smashed. That's right out of the medieval bestiary descriptions of elephants.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one tiny figure, right? This thing is so huge that a human being looks tiny on top of it. And yet this is a giant among these warriors. Yeah. Is clinging to his neck. And then we get the name Swertings, which I don't think we've talked about this one before.
No.
But this is just a word that's related to the word swarthy.
Right.
So it's just kind of another word for swarthy men. So again, a reference to their skin color, and that matches the description of the fallen Southerner we just talked about with his brown hand.
That's right. Now, elephants have long been used in battle, right, in the real world, going back to at least the 6th century BC in ancient India. And the use of towers on the backs of these beasts, it goes back nearly as far. So, yeah, that by the time the medieval bestiaries were being made, elephants had been in combat for, 1,000 years.
Yeah. And the bestiaries, even mythologized them further. I mean, the towers that you see in the illustrations in the bestiary, there's
they're impractical at best.
They look like stone towers.
It's with multiple levels and
It's like somebody actually built a castle on the back of this thing. That's not very realistic.
No. But
I imagine the wooden or wicker towers that we saw in the movie are probably a little bit more on point.
Exactly. Probably a couple of decks, a couple of levels, right? With many, many archers. That's the whole point.
But going back to the text here, at this point, the beast is no longer in control. It's blundering in blind wrath.
Yeah.
It's crushing men on both sides, completely wild at this point. And its skin is so thick, apparently, that arrows are of no use against it. And
that's
it just
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But again, I think that fits with the medieval bestiary. I think I remember reading something somewhere that they used to think that the only way to take one down was to shoot it in the eye. And that was so hard to do because you had to stand in front of a charging one.
Right. You're right.
So,
you mean you can't just stand on the back of one and shoot 3 arrows into the base of its neck there?
No, where the skull is probably about 3 inches thick of solid bone. No, Legolas, you can't just do that.
But it looks so cool when he does it, and then he slides down the trunk, and oh man, come on.
Yeah, except it still only counts as one.
That's right, it does. Gimli was robbed.
Yeah, boy, you're not kidding. Arrows are of no use here. Neither are swords for that matter, so yeah, the line still holds.
Yep. Yeah. Well, but then you got Eowyn with the swords, and she's like hamstringing the elephants as she rides.
I love
on
that.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
That was anyway. Like Luke Skywalker in the walkers on Hoth.
Oh, with the AT-AT, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. So the elephant's completely out of control. It goes off trumpeting and stamping and is never seen again.
That's right. And then we get in the part that I had to skip there at the end of the chapter, Sam's reaction to the Oliphant, right? So now he knows for sure, right? He always thought there was, but he wasn't 100% sure. Now he knows there really are such things as Oliphants, and he's seen one.
Yep. But he's certain that nobody back in the Shire is going to believe him, and he's probably right about that.
Yeah, I think so.
I could imagine Ted Sandyman just like, okay, sure, whatever, Gamgee.
Sam's pulling out his phone, trying desperately to get a picture in time.
Right.
Dang it, what's my password again? It doesn't recognize my face.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sandyman's pictures or it didn't happen, Sam.
That's right.
But then now with the adrenaline rush gone, it's now time for Sam to sleep.
Yeah, he needs another nap.
What he does.
I love it. It's the most Sam thing to do, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And the dialogue we get there is great too, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So I got to say though later, when the hobbits are in the field of Cormallen, spoilers after the ring is destroyed and all that, we read, the hobbits wandered here and there, visiting again the places that they had passed before. And Sam hoped always in some shadow of the woods or secret glade to catch, maybe, a glimpse of the great Oliphant. He didn't forget about it.
That's a great catch.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about that bit. Yeah.
He wanted to see it even then, after all of his adventures.
Awesome.
I love it.
I imagine it's probably long gone by then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Sam decides to take a little nap here.
Mm-hmm.
Mablung is happy to let him do so, but he does remind him that, once Faramir comes back, we're going to be leaving.
Yeah.
Very practical reason for that. Word of our ambush is going to have reached Sauron, and they're going to be coming for us. We're going to need to get out of here.
We absolutely will. And then Sam, I love it. He's slightly oblivious, or maybe he's being sarcastically hopeful. I'm not sure which, but he basically says, well, just don't be very loud when you leave. You don't need to bother me. I'm sleeping.
I think he's hoping against hope. He's like,
he really is.
Just in case Mablung is like, oh yeah, no, it's totally fine. We'll be totally quiet. Don't worry.
Right. No, Mablung laughs at him. I love it. He laughs. He says,
quite missed the point here.
Pretty sure Faramir's not going to leave you here, but I guess we'll see.
No,
I love it.
Pretty sure he's not.
It's a great little moment.
Yeah.
Again, I think it shows the way that the guards are warming to the hobbits, the way the men are warming to the hobbits. Yeah. I think we'll see the same thing with Faramir.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, modern barkeeps, they are but memories of Barlaman's girth and majesty. And he is,
if you say so.
And he is as rarely seen as an Oliphant. So there's that too.
That's true.
He did, in fairness, manage to get us the mail tonight. Sean, what do we have?
All right. Well, first up, Evan W. asked us a couple of questions about our new friend Faramir. We're only going to take one of them here today. Evan, please stay tuned. We'll try and get to the other one as soon as we can. But Evan said, I was thinking about how Boromir and Faramir are similar to Fingolfin and Finarfin. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Evan says, with Boromir and Fingolfin being strong warriors whose pride leads them to make a fatal mistake, leaving Aman and trying to take the ring. But they are later redeemed through an act of courage in battle that leads to their death. Dueling Morgoth in the case of Fingolfin, and of course protecting Merry and Pippin in the case of Boromir. In contrast that with Faramir and Finarfin, who Evan says are both younger brothers who are more measured and ultimately make the opposite decision of their more brash brothers. Finarfin refusing to leave Aman and Faramir refusing to try and take the ring. And they both, Faramir and Finarfin, ultimately rise to titles of nobility that should have gone to the older brothers.
Oh, wow.
King of the Noldor, in the case of Finarfin, and Steward of Gondor, in the case of Faramir.
Man.
Some very interesting comparisons. Alan, you have any thoughts?
It really is. Yeah, I don't know how I never caught that before, but Evan's absolutely right. These are some really, really great comparisons. Boromir and Fingolfin, both are bold, strong warriors, both make rash decisions. Arguably, both of those rash decisions are made under the influence of an external source. For
That's true.
Fingolfin, it's Feanor, and for Boromir, it's the ring. And then both die these sort of redemptive, heroic deaths. Granted, Boromir's story is much more personal and intimate, both in his mistake and in his redemption. But wow, the similarities are certainly there.
That's true. I mean, I would argue, though, that, Boromir's story is more personal and intimate because Lord of the Rings is more personal.
Well, right. That's the scale of the book. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Fingolfin is this, mythical figure in this mythical book. So, yeah, you're right about that. But I think it does make sense in context. And I mean, clearly it's even more interesting when you add the comparison to their brothers with, Faramir and Finarfin. I mean, they're both clearly a bit less headstrong.
Uh-huh.
I think they're both arguably a bit more wise.
Fair to say, yeah.
No, to be clear, Finarfin did march with Feanor at the beginning, and he started on the journey back to Middle-earth.
True.
But he did have the wisdom to turn around after Mandos spoke, that whole Doom of the Noldor bit.
Bright eyes.
Every now and then.
How did I know that was coming?
I fall apart.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
So, yeah, he did end up turning around, and he did end up making the better decision.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, Evan's absolutely right. Faramir and Finarfin both end up with titles that their elder brothers should have had. That's really fascinating, Evan.
Isn't it?
I love that.
I'd even add that, Finarfin was also not the most beloved of his father, but I guess neither was Fingolfin, because really that's Feanor.
Well, that's true. Yeah, they had,
wow.
They had Mr. Perfect to compete with.
That's right. With the 7 kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness.
That was a great question or a great observation, Evan.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say other than, wow, those are really cool comparisons.
Really cool catch,
I love them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great ones, Evan. Thank you.
Yep. So, Alan, what do you think? We have time for one more?
Actually, Sean, we don't. We're already pushing 2 hours, so we're going to go ahead and tackle the next question the next time. But folks, that does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony podcast. But be sure to join us again next week when Faramir gives Frodo the 3rd degree as we begin The Window in the West.
Oh, this is the shadow of the past for book 4.
It really is, isn't it?
It's like more exposition than you can shake a tater at. But I don't know.
I'm seeing you like shaking a tater now. It's cute.
Shaking a tater. Maybe a French fry. I don't know. A chip. But folks, we want to take a moment to thank the team that helps make this show better. That's our research assistants, along with our Barlowman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please make sure to give us a visit there at theprancingponypodcast.com. We've got show notes, hilarious outtakes, Prancing Pony ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get all sorts of PPP merch.
And definitely check out our library page. You know we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we have provided links for you to get nearly every book we mention on the show. Yeah, we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
Indeed. And now we want to thank some more really important people, our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. I'll start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, and Kathy from North Carolina.
And then we have Lori from Washington, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Hal from Washington, D.C., Lise in Switzerland, Dylan in Australia, and Ben in Minnesota. Thank you all so very much for your support.
Indeed, thank you.
And folks, please be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your Rangers of Athelian costumes, size large, please, to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just make sure to still send the question to Barliman, all right? Mm-hmm. And Barliman's a lot more reliable lately, but we do get a lot of mail. So we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, folks, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.